So, last episode, we wrapped up talking about the nesting season and how important it is for us to prepare things for our new goals or the new life that we're bringing into our existing life. This week, I want to circle back to something. A few episodes ago, we were talking about the what, why, and the how. And I want to drill deeper into the why, that reasoning behind what we're doing. So, a lot of times we focus on what we're doing, and then we plan out how exactly we want to do it. We plan out those steps, we have an action plan, we have the blueprint, and then we get going. And we don't spend enough time, or sometimes we don't spend any time, really looking at why we're doing things in the first place. And that why is a really important motivator that is the difference between those people that we look at and we say, how come they're experiencing so much personal success? And then maybe we've had our own experiences where sometimes we've experienced some success, and then other times we're like, I just don't get it. Why am I starting at the same time and I'm spending the same amount of time, but I'm not getting the same type of results? And a lot of times it really comes down to why. Have you really examined your heart and your spirit to say, why exactly am I doing these things that I'm setting out to do? So if you have felt stuck between this place of uncertainty and finding the right motives to kind of keep you going and to get you where you need to go, this episode is for you. In today's episode, you'll get a basic understanding of that what, how, and why concept and how they kind of are interconnected. And then you'll hear about my own experiences, an epiphany moment where I realized, oh my gosh, what I'm missing is the secret ingredient is really spending a little bit more time with the why. And then you'll also hopefully walk away with a couple of new tricks to try in your own goal setting plans. Do you crave better self-esteem and confidence but feel stuck in a fog of uncertainty? If you're ready to gain clarity on your goals and cut yourself free from the fear, self-doubt, and worry holding you back, this show is for you. I'm Jennifer DeBellis, award-winning author, speaker, and clarity coach. I help women like you restore their inner worlds and get clear on their goals to confidently fulfill their greatest desires. Ready to restore your inner warrior? Then turn off those distractions and tune in to this next episode. Girl, is your vision of your future so foggy you feel stuck in a tunnel of uncertainty, overwhelmed by stress and worry that your life is at a standstill when everyone else seems to be thriving? Do you see other people's social media posts and wonder, why isn't my life taking off like theirs? When will I enjoy personal success like that? I know how easy it is to be stuck in this place, spinning your wheels in the mud and sinking deeper into a rut. What if I told you there are simple steps you can take to reclaim your peace of mind, time, and focus as you fulfill your greatest desires? I'm Jennifer DeBellis, transformational author and speaker. On May 6th, I'm hosting a free live clinic, From Zero to Clear on Your Goals. I invite you to come and learn how easy it is to set yourself up for personal success as you get clear on your goals and map out what first steps to take to begin. We'll debunk the myths about personal success and begin to design a plan that's perfectly fit to meet your unique needs. Save the date for this lunch hour clinic happening May 6th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 1 to 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I can't wait to show you how to get unstuck and clearly see your goals and future. Claim your free seat today at restoreYourInnerWarrior.org/Zero to Clear Live. That's RestoreYourInnerWarrior.org/ZEROTOCLEARLIVE. So you may or may not have heard me say in previous episodes that I've spent the last decade in college classrooms. And one of the things that I do with my college students beginning on day one is we talk about goal setting and we talk about, the what that they hope to accomplish and maybe some ways that they think they might accomplish those things. Their very first assignment is to go home and to kind of start just doing some very surface research on maybe some things that they can incorporate outside of what they might get in the classroom to achieve some of these goals. And one of the questions that I leave them hanging with, which is kind of like an icebreaker, then I start the whole term, is why they want to accomplish these things. So I get them thinking about it right away. I do this with my coaching clients also, but it's something that I've mastered over the last decade in working with individuals and really trying to drill deeper into that reasoning and our motives. and our motives behind why we want to do what we're setting out to do. And so I know this probably isn't an entirely foreign concept to you, but it really hit home when I became a college student again and returned back to college as a more mature adult. And I had a better handle on what I wanted to accomplish and maybe how I wanted to accomplish it. And I had a lot more personally specific motivations behind what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And back then, my kids were small. So I had a household to still run, I had kids to deal with, I had a husband, and I had a life outside of school. And I had these very particular goals. And I knew it was going to be hard, but I also knew that I was stepping into my passions and stepping into my purpose. I remember when I got into classrooms and I started to learn how to analyze literature. That's when all these things started to click into place for me. And so, of course, these English classes that you have to take in college that are teaching you how to analyze these texts are doing a lot of very specific, like gatekeeper type of things where you need these skills to be really successful in some of your other college studies. And I think a lot of students kind of like gloss over these things. They try to cheat their way around them using AI and trying to buy essays and all these different things and trying to get other people's answers to just be like, I need to get this homework done. But really, one of the most important life lessons that I learned in my life, not just in college, was how to analyze through this lens. And it really taught me to really dig and probe into that why, into the motives. So when you think about like, what was the author trying to accomplish with this particular work? What is the author trying to invite us in to see? When you really start to look at that and you break it all down, it starts to take on entirely different meanings, and it changes your perspective on what's going on the surface in the stories and what's going on underneath the surface. Like, what are these things that this particular individual is trying to get me to see and trying to get me to consider? And then when you start to apply that to your own life and you start to really challenge, like, what's going on beneath the surface of the decisions that I'm trying to make and the ways that I'm trying to go about accomplishing these things that I'm setting out to do, it will start to expose you to yourself in a way that maybe you've never ever looked at yourself before. I think that's really important when we talk about like setting goals and trying to work toward personal success, is really getting intimate with the self. And maybe you're hearing that for the first time. Maybe it's the first time someone is telling you you really need to get intimate with yourself in a completely different way. So you kind of have to enter into this friendship with yourself and to be very hyper aware of the things that you're trying to accomplish and the reasoning behind why you're trying to do it. So coming back to my college classrooms, a lot of students don't know why they're there yet. Some of them are still in high school and they're taking early college classes. Some of them are returning students. Some of them just turned 18 or they just turned 19 and now they're starting college because that's the next thing they're supposed to do. And they're not really sure what they particularly want to do. They know what their parents want them to do. They know what the advisors have told them that that's the program they should sign up for. They know a little bit. Maybe they've done some testing. Maybe they've taken some classes in high school or done some things in the career world, and they've had jobs and they said, I like to do this and I like to do that. But, there's a lot of things that they're being forced to kind of make a decision about without really knowing exactly what specific goals that they want to achieve and what they think will make them fulfilled and successful as they grow and progress into a better version of themselves. And I've really been kind of thinking about this particular aspect of the equation as I prepare for my May 6th free clinic, which is the From Zero to Clear on Your Goals clinic. And I'm going to drill into this a little bit more on May 6th. But I really wanted to start like unpacking this a little bit in the podcast so that maybe you could start to get ready and prime your thinking in this way. So if you find yourself wanting to go deeper into this as well, you can snag your seat with the link in the show notes below. But as we drill deeper into it today, I really want you to be thinking about like how this is going to help you get to know yourself better. And maybe there are things you already maybe knew in your subconscious, but you didn't like tease it to the surface and you weren't really focused on it. And that could also be a really secret ingredient to why maybe you're not experiencing success or staying the course for the long run to actually achieve certain things that you set out to do because you're just not aware of these things, which are motivators. Spoiler alert, if you aren't really motivated for the right reasons to do something, you won't stick with it. So if you're just like trying to think about, like, a lot of us are trying to get healthier. So maybe we're trying to lose weight and we're trying to get stronger. And so if you're like just following the next best gimmick that you hear out there, you might be, trying and flopping and trying and flopping. And that's not to say that you won't learn some things that might be useful. But if your motives for doing that is like, I just want a quick fix, and all these other people claim that they're getting these quick results, so I'm going to do it, then maybe your motives aren't really in line with the type of success that you want, which is hopefully long-term success, which means you got to figure some things out to sustain those results. And so a lot of these different, get instant result types of things are not going to sustain you in the long run because you're really not entering into them for the right reasons. So maybe you're just looking for a quick fix and you're not looking for lifestyle change. And so if you really sat down in that instance and said, okay, what are my motives here? Well, I want to be healthier. Like I'm at a different age. I want to be around for my grandkids and I want to be healthy. I want to be doing one-handed cartwheels in the yard with them, like I did with my girls and their friends. And I want to be able to do things. I want to be able to go on adventures with them. Fun is my love language. And the thought of me not being healthy enough to do those things is a huge motivator for me. So I'm motivated because I'm the type of person who loves to do fun, active things outdoors. And I realize that as I'm getting older, I have to put a little bit of intentional work into being able to maintain the long-term goals of staying healthy and staying fit. It's not all a vanity thing. I mean, we all want to look better, of course, but my motives are not just, I want to like what I see in the mirror. I want to like the way my clothes fit. The motives are a lot more nuanced, and that keeps me locked in. So on the days where I'm like, I don't want to go for a walk, it's too cold, I don't want to work out, I have to channel into my motives and think about also what are the consequences of inaction here. And that's all a part of my goal setting plans and being very hyper aware. I'm going through something right now with my hormones that I'm injuring myself super easy. And that is also a motivator. So if I start to fall out of taking care of myself physically, then I start to get weaker muscles and it's like a domino effect. And then I pay. So it's like you can pay a little bit now, low stakes, high risk. So I'm doing the work, or you can pay high risk, high stake types of things in 2, 3, 4 weeks or 2, 3, 4 months when you're like, okay, I got to get back on track here. So you have to weigh those things out. So my motives then are nuanced and very clear. Like, I don't want to have to keep starting over. I don't want to injure myself, like stupid injuries that are avoidable if I can avoid them by just doing that regular maintenance that I need to do to stay healthy and to stay active. So this is just like one example, but you can apply that to all these different things in life and you can see how that starts to play out to your benefit or to your detriment, and the choice is yours. But I'm very aware of my reasoning behind doing these things. And all of that reasoning is attached to the action plan and the steps that I've set up to achieve that personal success. So, you've got to keep that in mind when you're doing these things. As we think about this why element, I'm going through a season right now where I'm trying to make some major lifestyle changes. So I'm in the process of going through my house and I'm just starting and trying to get things ready to sell the house. So there's a lot of stuff after like a couple of decades living in the same house where you get that urban sprawl and you keep acquiring things that I have to go through. And I have adult daughters who I'm like, you need to come and get your stuff, or I have some living here. You're going to need to figure some things out. You're going to figure out what you want to take. And I'm at that moment where I'm like, okay, this is overwhelming. It's really overwhelming at the beginning of a big process like this. And so I'm making lists and I'm sharing it with people saying, I need help. And I experienced something kind of alarming and a little bit sad recently when I was talking to my daughters individually about like, I need help. And I'm the type of mom who's like, I wanted to give my kids things that I didn't really get the same kind of support at the same age. And I'm like, I want to help them, get their foot secure into the world as they're stepping out into the world as adults. And I'm really like, I'm invested in them and I do a lot of things to kind of support them. And part of that is building that community, or I thought I'm building this community where I am sowing what I hope to reap in the future. And what I'm realizing as I'm getting my plans ready, like, hey, they all have their own lives and they all have their own expectations. And they're like not getting on board on a lot of things where I really thought they were going to get on board because I need help. I help them and I need help. And I'm realizing in this very like scary spot that I'm going to have to be a little bit more strategic and I'm going to have to plan this out in micro steps a little bit better as if I get no support. And then whatever things that they decide to come and help me with, they know what those are, then it's a bonus. So instead of relying on it and building that into my plan, I'm starting to realize like, I don't know that I can count on them that same way. I'm not faulting them for it. I just didn't expect it. So I'm a little heartsick about it and I got to work through that. But I found myself in this kind of like mama heartbreak moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on my own. I'm on an island all by myself. And I have to look at it like, okay, I've got to kind of plan some things out. I've got to check my motives. So that's one of the things as I've been preparing for this particular podcast series and the lunch hour clinic on May 6th. I'm like, this is a really big thing that not only I want to bring to my audience, but also that I need to work on a little bit more intentionally in my own life right now. Not like, oh, it's a good refresher. Like, oh no, crash course. You need to get a handle on these things right now. You need to check your motives. Why are you ultimately trying to accomplish the things that you're trying to accomplish? So it's time to take those next steps so that God can open up those other doors for me and lead me in the directions that He's already told me He's going to lead me in and things that I've already been doing in the background anyway. Recognizing my motives in this instance is really helping me also get the right kind of plans in order. So it's not even just important to understand the why so that it keeps us motivated and we can, bring that passion in, but it also helps us figure out the most appropriate and effective how. And we'll talk about that in future episodes, but it's really important for us to identify these things. So another reason why reasoning and knowing the why is so important is that our identity is attached to our goals. And that's why it's really dangerous to try to just pick like one big lifestyle goal and then we just wrap our whole identity around that specific goal or that specific way of living or way of being. And then one day maybe life changes. We change as life. Our careers will change. Our lifestyle changes. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, our whole identity is wrapped around this one particular goal. And now what do we do? And I see a lot of people, like a lot of my coaching clients are mid-stage wives where they have invested in their kids. So they're going through this same mama awakening moment that I'm going through. And they're like, I don't know how to be anything other than a really great wife and mom. And now they're like, well, now what do I do? Like, and they find themselves kind of having this midlife crisis where they're trying to really figure out like who they are because they have let so many things go. And we don't have to be that way. Like, here's maybe an epiphany moment for you. You can have so many layers to your identity. The more layers you have to your identity, the more dimensional you are, the more fulfilling your life will be. And isn't half the purpose of achieving personal success and goals all about that fulfillment? So we haven't really talked and broke that down into greater depth, and we'll do that in future episodes also. But we have to just, at a very basic level, be really cognizant of the fact that as we're trying to work toward accomplishing a goal, we're also growing and we're changing into a different version of ourselves. And hopefully, by design of the goal planning and the steps and that how-to part, we're growing into a better version of ourselves. And maybe we're growing into an overall better version of ourselves, or maybe we're just growing into an improved version in this particular area that just is very hyper focused and fixated on that particular goal. But a lot of the goals and the personal success that we're after are so interconnected to all these little goals that you might just be working on one particular goal and it is helping you grow and mature and blossom into this all around good person in this regard. And we watch that happen with people. And, how many times do we look at other people and we see them blossoming? We see that they've set out to do things, and maybe we don't understand everything they're setting out to do. Social media doesn't necessarily show us all the behind the scenes, but even before social media, my father-in-law, God rest his soul, he had this amazing outlook. And he would say to my husband, and my husband passed this down to me, and he passed it down to our daughters. He would say, Nikki, no one sees the hard work that you put into anything. They just see the finished product. But he didn't say it to him to be like, you can cut corners. He said, do things with excellence. So he would say to his son, do things with excellence because you're after the finished product, but don't expect people to commend all the hard work that you put into it. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword, but I love it because all the work that we put into things is really ultimately for us. Like, obviously, some of the things that we set out to achieve, other people benefit from. I'm not going to, argue that point or dismiss that point. But when we talk about personal success, we are definitely talking about ourselves. And one of the topics that we're talking about today is that getting intimate with yourself and really probing beneath the surface and figuring out what makes you tick, why you're ticking the way you're ticking, so that you can be more intentional about that goal setting and making sure that even if you just need to tweak it a little bit, that you're doing it with the right heart and the right spirit behind it. And so as we're really talking about this, think about, when was the last time that you examined the why reasoning behind something that you're doing? Is it the first time that you're doing it right now that I'm inviting you to do it? Like my college students on day one in our class, a lot of them are stuck with, this is what my parents want me to do. This is what the advisors told me to do. These are what my high school teachers, this is kind of what they nurtured me in this direction to do, because they said these are great career fields. And so, maybe it is a good career field. Maybe those students will figure out like, oh, I want that too. Maybe the people around them recognized their talents, their gifts, and a potential in a particular area, and they were just speaking into that and trying to manifest that for them. Or maybe, like, I know so many people who were like, oh, I just want my kid to be a doctor or a lawyer or a judge or an engineer. And the parents' motives behind it were maybe not the right reasons. And maybe they were the right reasons, but for the wrong intentions, or maybe the right reasons, but they weren't factoring in, this is my kid we're talking about here. And no one knows their kids better than parents. Even the people who you think you know intimately, who you think know you intimately, maybe trying to force you into a mold that you don't quite fit into. So that's another reason why it's really important for us to self-examine and get alone, even in our spiritual life, to get alone so much with the meditation and that real intimate space, so that when we do seek counsel outside of ourselves, that we are grounded, that we know, like, that doesn't resonate with me, or I know enough, that I've learned enough through probing through this to know that what you're saying to me is trying to force me in a direction. And then we can sift through it that way. Because otherwise, if we don't, again, identify that why, that reasoning, and know it to be true or adjust accordingly, when we start to go ask people, like, what do you think? Which that's natural to do. It doesn't matter if it's a professional, like a therapist or, a counselor, or a trusted friend or family member. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we have knowledge that we bring to the conversation prior, so that we can recognize that doesn't sit with me, or that's not what my motives are, or that's not what the outcome that I want. That's not the person I know I am right now and the person that I'm growing into becoming. So we have to, have a handle on those things so that we can have these really insightful conversations with individuals. And one of the things that we need to ask ourselves in this whole larger conversation is, are we motivated by our own deeply rooted desire to do it for our own reasons? Is that meaning even important to me, or is it just important to other people? Because how many things do we do in our lives that we regret? Maybe we don't even finish it, but that maybe we do finish it and then we regret it. So we didn't accomplish the goal that we really thought we wanted to accomplish. We certainly get to the end of it. We don't feel that personal success that we were after. How many times do we get to a place like that because it wasn't something that was important to us? We were doing it for the wrong reasons. We were doing it for someone else, or we were doing it for an outcome that someone else wanted for us. So personal success should absolutely be rooted in our motives that are aligned with the growth and the achievement that we hope to experience. I mean, think about coming back to when we witness someone else achieving a goal or experiencing some type of personal success, and we're bombarded with those messages all day long. But I think if you really look closely, you can start to see the genuine and the fake. That like insta perfect fake stuff. And maybe you can't. Like some people have mastered the art of rubbing it in your face and really making you feel like they're just living their best life and making you feel all that envy and that resentment. But really, when you look at someone or someone, we know people and we've been rooting for them that are experiencing some type of personal success, and you see that genuine smile. And that genuine smile says everything about the joy. And there's also this enviable joy and pride that is attached to, and it's coming out in their body language, and it's coming out in that smile, and it's coming out in their words. So their words and their actions are showing. And it's not the enviable where you're just like you hate them. It's like the contagious kind, the inspirational kind that makes you feel like, I want to do that too. It motivates us. So that's another motivator. Seeing other people achieve their personal successes, it motivates us to want to go and chase our own. And the thing that really is the most impactful to me, so I'm a communications expert. It's what I do for a living. And so I sit and I listen to people and I ask people specific, very pointed questions because I'm trying to understand and I'm trying to get a specific type of understanding of whatever it is we're talking about. One of the things that I've discovered after a decade in college classrooms teaching these concepts is there is a very particular way that someone speaks about something. So when you listen to someone who is expressing that they've achieved a goal, or maybe they're working toward a goal, and maybe they're just in the throes of it and they're working toward it. They're on the path somewhere and they're talking about like, I don't know, some accomplishment that they've had, or maybe some struggle that they're having. But when you listen to them talk about it, you get this feeling. You can read so much about their motives by the way they're talking about it. And so that has been a really interesting thing for me. It's probably the best takeaway I've had when I think about what's the life lesson here in all of this is for myself. So if I want to understand my motives deeply in my core, I really meditate on how I feel about it. So how am I talking about it when I'm meditating on it? How am I talking about it with other people? How am I writing about it when I'm sitting there just journaling and brainstorming through things? What are the things that are coming out of me? So I'll do that practice a lot because those things all come from a very personal place. You may have heard me say in another episode that one of the things I do is I stack, I task stack. So I will combine things because I feel like we also sometimes make goal setting suck. We make the process and the steps in it suck. So there may be things that do kind of like, it's not my favorite thing to do, or it's really hard for me to do it. Then I pair those things. I try to figure out, is there a way that I can put something that I love with this? I'm doing a lot of these like power hike walks, and they're hard in the weather. Like a lot of times by the time I get out there, the weather's really hot and it's kind of unseasonably hot. And I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks. But I pop in a podcast or my favorite music, and suddenly I love it. And I know some people will say, oh, you need to get alone with nature. Well, guess what? That doesn't work for me. So that's awesome if it works for you. And so I know how to pair those things. And and I limit these types of activities. No, I don't limit them. And then I look forward to it. So right now I'm going through this really busy season and I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to go for a walk. The sun's out. I don't hate being out in the sun when it's hot. It's not that I hate walking. It's that I'm upping my mileage. So I'm trying to get back. I'm nursing myself back from an injury and I'm trying to get back into running longer, which means I have to walk at particular paces and interval paces and I have to walk farther. So the other day I added a mile. So I added a mile onto my walk, which is a lot to add onto your walk. And so then it is challenging. It is hard. By pairing it with things that I love to do, I'm actually looking forward to it. I wanted to listen to this podcast for the last few days, and now I'm going to get to listen to this podcast that I wanted to hear. And I'm also going to feel amazing afterward because you also get all those great endorphins that are going to stick with you for like the next 2 days. So you're like, it's an easy motivation. It's easy to stay motivated when I'm bringing in elements of joy. So not just the joy of accomplishing it, and the pride that comes along with that personal accomplishment and, achieving these moments of personal success, it's also the joy in doing it. So sometimes the best trick is just to trick yourself by combining certain things and, just task stack so that you're actually doing things you love. So over the next week, I really want you to kind of just be thinking about your reasoning. Why are you trying to do specific things? So if you're working on a few things right now in your life and you have some goals set out and you're working through the steps, I want you to be thinking about why. Be self-aware about your motives and your reasoning behind these things. So if you just want to focus in on one thing at a time, I recommend that. Just focus on one thing. Why am I doing this thing? Why do I hope to accomplish this particular goal? And be thinking about that. Go through it and go through the pros and the cons, because also you can also start to recognize those aren't your motives at all. Like, well, this isn't even my goal. You may have that epiphany moment where when you start to really think about it, you realize that's not my goal at all. Well, that's someone else's goal for me, or that's might not be someone's. A lot of times the world fills us with ideas and it convinces us that we too need to do this thing, or we too need to have this accomplishment under our belt in order to say, I'm personally successful. I am achieving goals. I am growing as a person. And really, most of the time, that's not accurate. So we get bombarded a lot with messages because a lot of the media that we consume is making us discontent. Talked about this last episode. It's making us discontent and it's creating a problem. Then all of a sudden, the media is also going to have the solution for you. So getting alone with these things and recognizing, wait, is this my motive? Or what are my motives here? And then we might realize, like, oh, I still want the same goal, like the fitness one. If I can come back to what I started the episode on, I still want to achieve these same goals, but my motives for doing it are a little bit different. And so therefore, then the outcomes and the how I'm going to do it is going to be radically different. But we wouldn't recognize that maybe ever, or maybe right away until we tried and failed. And I'm not saying we can't try and fail things. That's how we learn also. But sometimes we can avoid it. We can avoid certain failures by doing this important legwork because we can't get back that time. Our time is precious, our resources. So sometimes we spend money on things that we shouldn't have spent money on and we didn't know. And had we put the thought process into it, we might have been like, okay, no, I already know that's not going to work for me because, right? We have our own experiences, our own trials and errors from the past. We have our whole composition to factor in. So we have the whole person to factor into this to be like, okay, I know enough about this, or I know I'm not going to keep buying into this. Like I can't afford it. It's not sustainable for me to keep buying these supplements, for me to keep doing this particular thing. So that's not the solution for me right now. And maybe it's never, but we have to put that legwork in. So I want you to be kind of looking at those things, going through the pros and the cons and seeing if you can just really drill deep into your why, into those motives, so that then you can sit down and do some of these other things. Then a lot of things will be clear. And I want to remind you, I'm super proud of you for taking this first step here. When you stayed in for the episode and said, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to take this next step. I am rooting for you. And I believe that if you just practice these simple things through, not just throughout this week, but if you start bringing these practices into your life, they're going to make major changes. And you're going to start to feel that personal success that you're craving, even when you're not like hyper focused on, I need to achieve this goal and I need to achieve this goal and I need to have this accomplishment and have these accolades and all those things. Personal success is so much more. Living a life that feels so fulfilling has a lot of little tiny moving nuanced parts that don't all have to do with accomplishing the next goal. So I want you to be encouraged as you're taking these steps to just really examine your motives and get to know yourself better, and how this is actually equipping you in so many areas of your life to like just save your time and your energy and get you started on the right track in the right directions so much easier. It really does make so many things easier in life if we know some of these things going in. So I really do hope that you'll be taking these vital steps, those big risk, small stakes. Some things will be big stakes, but the things that I'm asking you to do right now are just you privately with yourself. So maybe the risks feel big, And maybe the risks are big, but the stakes are small because you're not putting any money into the game yet. You're not putting a lot of time into it. We can meditate while we're in the shower. We can meditate while we're, brushing our teeth. We should always be meditating, think about like spending that time alone with our mind, and even spending that time in spiritual meditation, however you practice that spiritual meditation, cultivating that intimate relationship with ourselves, because no one is going to have our backs and our best interests the way we are. We can try to build those great healthy communities and support networks, but really at the end of the day, we have to be our best supporter. We have to be the one who has our back the most. And I just want to remind you in closing here, if you're ready to supercharge your journey, I hope you'll join me on May 6th for my free goal setting clinic. Secure your seat with the link in the show notes below, or visit restoreYourInnerWarrior.org/0 to clear live. That's RestoreYourInnerWarrior.org/ZEROTOCLEARLIVE. Well, girl, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, follow my channel and share it with friends who also want to restore their self-worth and confidence. And if you're ready to get clarity and big picture vision on your goals, consider booking a one-on-one coaching session with me. Find a link in the show notes below to book a session. And as you go through your week, may your empowered spirit, heart, and mind guide you. Catch new episodes every Saturday. Ciao.